Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To Madam Azni Syafena and Madam Intan Syahriza. My name is Siti Najihah Binti Jamaludin and my partner Natasha Amira Binti Abdul Halim would like to present our research title, which is The Factors That Affects Students' Academic Performance Using Social Media at UITM KEDAH. And our supervisor is Sir Muhammad Nazir bin Rabun. This is the presentation outline that will be start with research background, problem statement, research objective and research question, conceptual framework, research methodology, finding, recommendation, limitation, and conclusion.
The first research background is according to Talhi 2020 state that social networking sites are valuable tools to many individuals in modern society. Social media allow the individuals to communicate with others in online communities. These communities can consist of close friends and family members or co-workers and simple acquaintances. The second is according to Kang 2016 state that the students in campus China have their own interests, desire and more when the students using the social media towards academic performance. According to Nabera 2017, the institutions of higher learning in Kenya, university students are among the most avid users social networking sites in the country. They span the world because among the students are content creators, passive leaders, active participants, those who just share, and a few who embrace social media. Next problem statement. According to the STARS 2020, defined that MOOC student is very important and one of the objectives taken is to transform the learning and teaching methods and strategies in IPTA by using social media. However, despite all government's effort, it's actually giving impact towards student performance, especially during this pandemic COVID-19. According to Natmi et al. 2021 state that risk and issue of student positive engagements in online class is low and socially depressed of students on studies that have been conducted on various universities in Malaysia. Recognizing these issues and analyzed data was collected from 468 and these students revealed a variety of challenges that the students face when using IT platform applications for online learning. The last problem statement is according to Osman and Ngah 2017, the study on student academic performance at Terengganu, Malaysia. Social media becoming attractions and has been used as a widespread tool for communications and group cohesions amongst students. This study result shows that an excessive use of social media has begun to show a significant impact on student life. There are 6 research questions in this research. First, what is the extent average level of student academic performance at UITM KEDAH? Second, what is the relationship between cooperative learning and student academic performance at UITM KEDAH? The third is, what is the relationship between engagements and student academic performance at UITM KEDAH? The fourth, what is the relationship between interaction with instructor and student academic performance at UITM KEDAH? The fifth, what is the relationship between interaction with classmates and student academic performance at UITM KEDAH? And the last is, what is the most influential factors affecting student academic performance at UITM KEDAH? There are 6 research objectives in this research. First is to examine the average level of student academic performance at UITM KEDAH. Second is to identify the relationship between cooperative learning and student academic performance at UITM KEDAH. The third is to investigate the relationship between engagements and student academic performance at UITM KEDAH. The fourth is to examine the relationship between interaction with instructor and student academic performance at UITM KEDAH. The fifth is to examine the relationship between interaction with classmates and student academic performance at UITM KEDAH. And the last one is to investigate the most influential factors affecting student academic performance at UITM KEDAH. The conceptual frameworks identify the academic performance determined by 4 independent variables, which is cooperative learning, engagements, interaction with instructor, interactions with classmates. However, the dependent variables is academic performance, where it eventually influences the student academic performance.
Next, research methodology, and I will touch on 7 main points consist of research design, unit of analysis, sample, sampling technique, data measurement, data collection, and data analysis. And we will start first with research design. According to Pavan and Kulkarni 2014 state that research design will help the study to analyzing and collecting data. In this study, quantitative method had been used through questionnaire and distribute it via social media such as Facebook, Telegram, WhatsApp, and more. Next, unit of analysis. This study units of analysis is the all degree level of students at UITM KEDAH. However, on a sample, according to Roscoe 1975 mentions that the sample needs to more than 30 respondents and not less than 500 of respondents. Hence, in this study, there are only 120 respondents had been chosen. On sampling technique, in this study, cluster sampling was being used. It means that the whole population of people was divided into a group. In other words, a whole population of students at UITM KEDAH are divided into 11 programs of degree level that this study focusing for. Data measurement. Likert scale had been used as a data measurement in this study to indicate the respondent to choose the answer from strongly disagree, neutral, agree, and strongly agree. Next, data collection. In this data collection consists of 5 sections. We'll start first on section A, which is demographic factors. Section B, on independent variable consists of the first independent variable or IV, which is cooperative learnings. Next, on section C, engagement. Section D, interaction with instructor, and section D, interaction with classmate. And lastly, data analysis. In this data analysis consists of 3 main points, which is descriptive statistic, Pearson correlation, and multiple regression analysis that had been used.
The total number of respondents in this study is 120. Genders were included in the demographic profile of the respondents in the study. The distributions of the respondents that was based by gender consists of a reasonable distributions between male and female respondents. In terms of gender, majority of respondents were represented 56.7% by female groups. Meanwhile, majority of respondents were represented 43.3% by male groups. Next, in terms of age segmentations, the majority of respondents were represented 96.7% by 22 years old and above groups. Meanwhile, the majority of respondents were represented 3.3% by 21 years old groups. Besides that, in terms of current academic taking segmentations, majority of the respondents were represented 100% by Bachelor of Degree groups. In terms of faculty segmentations, majority of the respondents were represented 61.7% by faculty FPP groups. Meanwhile, majority of the respondents were represented 8.3% by faculty of SAPPP, FP, and FSSR groups. In terms of program code, majority of the respondents were represented 13.3% by IM244 groups. Meanwhile, all the respondents was represented 10.8% by BM250 groups and 9.2% by BM249 groups. Most of the respondents were represented 8.3% by SC220, AD244, AM228, BM240, BM242, BM243, BM244, and BM246 groups. The next section of the demographic profile is types of social media earned. As stated, majority of the respondents were represented by 57.6% by categories groups of Google. Meanwhile, all the respondents were represented 14.2% by categories of group of Twitter. However, The lowest rate of majority respondent was represented by 13.3% by categories groups of Facebook. Meanwhile, Instagram of the respondents were represented by 15.0%. In the term of time spending on this social media a day segmentations, the majority of respondents were represented 42.5% by categories groups of more than 6 hours. Therefore, the lowest rate of majority respondents was represented 6.7% by. Finally, the last section of demographic profile is the main purpose of using social media of the respondents. All respondents was represented 50% by categories groups of study. Meanwhile, most respondents were represented 7.5% by categories group of gaming and communications.
Goodness of measure on reliability. According to Sakaran and Bugge, stated that the value of reliability that less than 0.6 is indicated to be poor. On this data, it shows that there is only one of the independent variable, which is cooperative learning, indicated to be reliable. However, another 3 independent variable is indicated to be preferable. Next, goodness of measure on normality. According to Madia, 1985 mentions that normality will fulfill when the skewness and kurtosis in the range of -2 until 2. However, in this table of study, it shows that there is only one of independent variable, which is interaction with instructor are not meet with normality value. As I mentioned on data analysis, there are 3 main instruments that we use. So we proceed with main finding of this study. For the H1, the study indicates that most of the students at UITM KEDAH is at average level of academic performance, since the mean range is 3.3288 that being measured by descriptive analysis. Next, for the H2, H3, and H5 of the study found that there is a correlation between 2 variables, which is independent variable and dependent variable, that's supported by some previous study. However, the study also noticed that there is no correlations of H4, which is interaction with instructor and students' academic performance at UITM KEDAH, since the p-value is bigger than 0.05. This H2, H3, H4, and H5 are being used Pearson correlation as main instrument to measure it. For the H6, this study considered that cooperative learning has an influence on students' academic performance at UITM KEDAH, since the value of beta STD is -0.427 and p-value lower than 0.05. That's more influent rather than another independent variable, and measure it by multiple regression analysis by allowing this study to assess the strength of the correlation between an outcome. Then, recommendation. The first recommendation is most college students would prefer to use social media and spend many hours checking social media site. This study is supported by Kenya et al. 2011 revealed that social media has a significant impact on student productivity as well as their mark. Second recommendation is future research should devise a technique to boost data collecting level. This can be characterized as considering a more effective distribution route, such as a direct or one-on-one interview if the opportunity arises. This is because the questionnaire is completed on the spot so that the result can be more accurate and lowering the risk of dishonesty when answering the questionnaire. The last one is limitation. The first limitation is this study was conducted on one level of education only. As stated, this research only focusing on the degree level of education by ignoring another level of education such as diploma, postgraduate, and more. As a result, the study findings cannot be generalized at another institution. Second limitation is the small sample size. As mentioned, this study only distributed to 120 of respondents. This is supported by a study from Zool 2018. This research mentions that one of the reasons is the use of small sample size that could be one causes for the inconsistency in result outcome.
Conclusions. This research found that majority of respondents has an average level of academic performance, and the majority of the respondents are from the Bachelor of Degree. Commonly, the results shown by Wang 2011 show that social media gives effectiveness on student grade, CGPA. So, this chapter discussing in detail on the result of findings that has been analysed in the previous chapter. Throughout the research that has been conducted, the research has faced several limitations such as methods applied, respondents and online platform. Also, the research have provided recommendations in order to overcome the limitations for future research.